Hello and welcome to the instructional video on the 2019 Lyseo 690 Limited. So I've got it parked, the vehicle parked under a canopy because the weather is appalling, so I'll do my best with the sound quality with the rain, but we'll crack on. So we'll go around the outside of the motorhome first and then we'll move on to the inside. So first things first, the bonnet release catch on these is just under here, behind the door on the side of the dashboard. So pull that lever, that releases the bonnet catch. The blinds on this model, you pinch these two little levers together here and draw this across. It's got a magnetic strip there that blanks off the side windows, so that's the blackout blinds for the side windows. Very similar operation on the windscreen. You pull these two little levers, those pinch those together, that releases it, and you draw that across like so. And there's a little cutout there, as you can see, to make way for the reversing mirror, which isn't much use on this model, but they come from the factory fitted with those. So you draw that across, make way with that little gap there for the mirror, and on the side of this here, along this strip here, is a magnetic strip that corresponds to the other side, and that keeps them in position. So that's the blackout blinds for the windscreen. When you push this back in, make sure that that's clipped in correctly, otherwise when you're cornering that could slide across and impede your vision. Similarly, same with this. When you're drawing this back, make sure that that goes back straight so it doesn't crumple up the blinds, and just make sure that that's put back into position correctly to stop it from sliding when you're driving. On this pillar here there is some tyre pressures. However, this model is fitted with specialist camping tyres, so you're better referring to the actual tyres themselves rather than this, because the camping tyres are capable of a higher pressure than the standard van tyres. To swivel the seats around on this model, it's these little levers here. So if you pull that lever, that will allow you to swivel the captain's chairs and therefore face the back of the vehicle in the passenger and driver's seat. The fuel filler is just here. You do need the key for that, so the key goes directly into there. And that's where you fill your diesel fuel. So underneath the bonnet then we have washer fluid, so that's where your washer fluid is filled. We've got coolant, brake fluid, engine oil fill, dipstick just there. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, then the positive terminal will go onto a little tab which is just under here. Okay, sometimes it's difficult to release that tab. What you do is you put your key into that little groove there, and it'll allow you to lift that cover, and your red cable, your positive cable, goes onto that tab there, and the earth is this little tab here, so your black cable goes onto that one. That's if you ever need to jump start it or jump start another vehicle. Your chassis plate is just there, so that's everything underneath the bonnet. So moving on around the motorhome, then we'll start around this side, and sorry, just having some trouble with the okay, sorry about that, the camera was playing up. So we've got the main habitation door here, and we'll move on to the inside once we've been around the outside. So the main controls are on the outside are, this is your toilet cassette. This is where the toilet waste ends up in this cassette here. There's an indication on the inside to tell you when that is full, but you'll actually be able to see down the toilet, but we'll come to that in a second. To empty this, you lift this little handle up here, slide the cassette out, and then to empty this you unscrew the nozzle off the end, turn the cassette upside down and pour the waste away. As you're doing so, press this button in here. It lets air in as the liquid and toilet waste is being dispelled from this here. That stops it glugging and splashing. This cassette requires a chemical which goes into it. To put that in, you slide this cover back here and open this valve by turning that knob there. Then you put, once you've emptied it, put a little bit of water into the bottom and the required amount of chemical, or indeed the sachets that are now more popular, into there, and then the cassette's ready to use again. Before you put it back, make sure that that is facing that way and that has closed. Put the cover back on and insert it back into its housing. This has got wheels on the bottom, so you can wheel it over to the disposal point, and a telescopic handle which lifts up like so to allow you to wheel it to the disposal point. So to put this back in, slide the wheels onto the base and push this back in. Just make sure that the handle sits back in its little groove there. Above that we have just above that we have the external barbecue point. This is plumbed into the gas bottles which are around the other side of the vehicle, so if you want to use a barbecue outside or maybe a gas heater, then you can tap into the gas supply for the motorhome. There's a little nozzle that pushes into there. It's a bayonet fitting. It will require that little nozzle, but we've got them in the shop. When you push that in there, this little collar here, that slides forward, and then to release the brass fitting out from this here, you push that collar back. So the brass fitting goes into there, and then you attach your flexible hose to the end of that brass fitting, and that allows you to tap into the gas supply for the motorhome. It is lockable, so the key that's needed to lock this is that one there with cutouts on either side, not to be confused with the bed key. So we'll come to that in a second when we go inside, but the bed key just has the cutting on one side. Okay, so moving on again, then we have an external 12-volt socket in this flap here, which is that one there. It's not a standard cigarette lighter, you do need an adapter for that. So again, we've got those in the shop, but hopefully you can see that round fitting is 12 volt. This one here is mains, so that's a main socket that will allow you to tap into the supply of the motorhome. It's not the feed goes in around the other side of the motorhome. Again, you need an adapter for that. It's just like a continental adapter that you would use if you were abroad in a European hotel. Next hatch along, we have access to the garage. So in here, this cushion here is to bridge the gap between the two single beds that are at the back. That'll become clear when we look inside the motorhome, but that will make the two single beds into a double, which is, as I say, we'll cover when we go inside the motorhome. The winder for the awning is just there. That's where that's housed. There is a separate video on our YouTube channel that shows you how to operate the awning and wind that out. There's legs contained within that box there, but that's a separate video which I'll put in the description of this particular demonstrational video. At the other end of the garage there, we've got the toolkit, and also it doesn't come with a spare wheel, this motorhome, but there is a puncture repair kit which I'm just pointing to there. The previous customers left some leveling blocks in there, so they're like wedge shaped blocks. If you're not quite on a level pitch, then just run one of the wheels up one of those wedge shaped blocks to level you out. Okay, so on this model it's got a bike rack. The way the bike rack works is that if you lift these bars up here like so, undo these little clips here, fold the base down, and then the wheels go on these bars here. This strap goes over the top of the wheels to secure the bike to the base, and then these bars fixed to the crossbars of the bike to keep them in position. So you've got the longer bar for the outside bike, and then the shorter bar, which is just there, for the inside bike. And these just use like a ratchet strap, so you push that in like so and release it like that. You've got the reversing camera up there, so that's the lens that will give you a display on the dashboard when you put it in reverse. Just make sure that's kept clean. When it's wet, you will get a distorted vision through that, but if you give it a quick wipe, it will come back to normal, so just be aware that's where the lens is. And we've just got access through to the other side of the garage. Again, just the things we've already talked about, the puncture repair kit, tool kit, etc. Okay, so on this side of the motorhome, that's where the fridge is housed within the motorhome. So it's got a vent at the bottom and a vent at the top. What it does is it draws cool air in at the bottom, expels warm air at the top. It's important that they're kept clean and free of debris. It does need to breathe, the fridge. So that's what they are. You can buy winter covers for those. If it's really, really windy and you get breeze blowing into the motorhome through these vents, then those winter covers will prevent that. Also, when you're driving, it just keeps debris from flowing in there. They're not essential, but you might find them necessary if you in high winds. Okay, so the next thing along, we've got the gas locker. 2 gas bottles are required for this, or you can just use it on one, but it'll take 2 gas bottles. So your gas bottles sit in here, the straps go around them to secure the gas bottles in position. You've got your gas regulator here. There's a flexible hose, which is this here. So this end of the flexible hose screws onto the top of the regulator like so, and this end goes into your gas bottles, so this can just be finger tight. And it's reverse thread, so you're going anti-clockwise to tighten into your bottles, and then obviously the gas bottles themselves have got the tap on the top to switch the gas on and off. The wastewater tank is housed underneath the motorhome, and it's just here. There's an indication on the control panel to tell you how full or indeed empty that tank is. The way that that's emptied is there's a little, just underneath the motorhome here, there is this bar, this one here. The wastewater comes out of that pipe just there, and the way you release that is it's this little key here. So you put that key onto that bar, turn it anti-clockwise, and that will let the wastewater flow out of the tank. This is the service locker. So this is your freshwater tank. The way that that's filled is you unscrew this nozzle here, and to prevent any spillage you use this flap and put it on there like so, and then that prevents any spillages. When you're filling it, you put a hose pipe into there, just fill it until literally you can actually see, because it's a clear tank, you can see it filling up, but if it overspills, this is to stop any spillages. That's the correct position for storing the 2 things that we've just discussed. To empty this tank, it's this tap on top of the tank. You can empty that down to 20 litres as shown on this sticker here. So the full capacity is 120 litres. If you turn this tap anti-clockwise, you'll hear a little click. The first click will be down to 20 litres. If you then continue to turn it, it will then go past that click and then drain the tank down fully. The reason for that is that you can travel with 20 litres in the tank. You know how much weight that is then, because 20 litres is 20 kilos, and you can calculate your payload from that. You've got access into your tank here. If you need to clean it, you just unscrew this, and it's got like a rubber O-ring to seal it. Just make sure that that's tightened up fully before you start filling the tank, otherwise you'll get leakage into your service locker, which you don't want. The mains electric cable goes into this here, so your mains lead, it doesn't have one this, so it will require a mains lead. Mains lead goes straight into this here, and that's your mains electric feed into the motorhome. There's 2 drainage points here, both for the boiler and the excess pipe work that leads to the boiler. This is the drain for the boiler. So you've got a freshwater tank here which requires draining in winter. You need to drain down your wastewater, which we've discussed, and also your boiler. Particularly important in winter, if water's left in here, particularly the boiler, and it's left and it freezes, it will expand. It will expand in all this pipe work here. It will then it's in danger of cracking the boiler and damaging the taps and pipe work, which is an expensive repair. This here is thermostatically controlled, so if this box here senses that the temperature reaches 6 degrees or below, it will automatically drop all the water out of the boiler as a safety feature. If the boiler's switched on, then it won't do that, because it recognises that the boiler is switched on, and therefore it will override that safety feature. That's now in the open position. That is the closed position, and you must press this little button in here as well. So that's closed and ready to use. In the open position, that diamond looks like that, and that little knob button on the front there, that pushes out, but that needs pressing in to fully close it. This one here drains down the water in the pipe work, the excess pipe work. That is now in the open position. To close it and get it functional and ready to use and fill with water, it must look like that. So horizontal is closed, vertical is open. It doesn't matter which way you put it, so I'll leave it in the open position that now. So they must be closed before you can fill your boiler. All the nozzles on the outside, all so what you do with this, you see that operates this here. So you close it like that, put the key in, turn it, and then push that in. When you see this red ring around the outside, you know that that's open. And when you lock it and push that in, it's locked. You can put the cable through this little nozzle here. So when you got your main supply coming in, you plug it into there, put the cable through this little nozzle here, and that allows you to close the door with the cable attached. Obviously, make sure that that is removed before moving off. So we'll move it on into the inside of the motorhome now. Just one more thing. This is the exhaust for the boiler. So what we talked about there about draining down the boiler is housed in this position here inside the motorhome. When you run it on gas, then you will see steam rising from this. It's nothing to worry about, but that's the vent for the boiler. Just make sure that that's kept clean and free of debris. Okay, so moving on to the inside of the motorhome then. All your light switches are here. You've got your step control, which is just this one here. This is an amplifier box for the television aerial. You can adjust the amplification of the television box. I'd just leave it on full. It won't do it any harm if it's on full. This model has been fitted with Wi-Fi. I'll run through that with you on the day, I think, because not all these models are going to have that, but basically it'll give you, it's like a Wi-Fi server box. You do need a data card to go in that, so you'll need a Wi-Fi, you'll need a SIM card to get your Wi-Fi up and running. The instructions for that are there, but if you've got any questions on that, I'll answer those on the day that you collect. Above that we have the main control panel, which is this one here. So basically that switches on and off the entire 12 volt circuit. Okay, and then all the other buttons here. So we have these two here that are battery condition indicators. So you've got a picture of the motorhome at the back there. That is giving you an indication of your leisure battery condition. We've not had this plugged in, it isn't plugged in now, so that does need a charge, but the cleaners haven't been in this yet and they will plug it in, so that'll be fully charged. Your engine battery is that one there. These are your water situation indicators, so that's your fresh water, that's your wastewater. That one there is the water pump. So what's that? So when that's switched on, what that's doing is pumping the water from the tank that we showed you in the service locker at the side of the motorhome. It is very important that when you first fill it with water after you've drained it down, that you purge all the pipe work and get all the air out of the pipes. So the process is fill it up with water, switch your water pump on, come to your tap, switch the tap on hot first, and then just wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of your tap. You then know that there's no air left in the boiler and the pipe work leading to the boiler and from the boiler to the tap. Then switch it over and do the same on cold, and then you've purged all the pipe work and got all the air out of it so that it's ready to use again. Then you can switch your boiler on. Don't switch your boiler on without water being in it, otherwise you're just heating thin air. So it pumps the water from the fresh water tank through the boiler, fills up the boiler, then fills up all the pipe work, and eventually it'll come out of your tap. So you'll get it spluttering out of your tap. when you get a pure flow of water, you know all the air's out of that system then. So that's the control panel for the Burstner side of things. This is the boiler controller. So to switch this on, it's a long press on this wheel here. So basically you press this wheel and then spin it around. So the first one here is your temperature that you require for the motorhome. So if I was to press that now, and then just wheel it around to, let's say, 22 degrees, which is room temperature. Press it again, and then that will heat the motorhome to 22 degrees. I'm going to go back to off. This is your back switch, which will take you to the main menu again. Next one along is water temperature. Okay, so if we go into that menu, you've got eco, which is probably about 40 degrees, hot, which is probably 60 or 70 degrees, and boost. Boost will take all of the power from the heating of the motorhome and give it preference to the heating of the water. I personally wouldn't use that, but if you want a lot of hot water very quickly, then you can use that system to just boost the hot water. Your next one along is your fuel selection. So there we just have gas only, gas and a mix of electric on 1 kilowatt, gas and a mix of electric on 2 kilowatts, electric only on 1 kilowatts, and electric only on 2 kilowatts. The reason for that is if you want a low ampage site, then just put it on 1 kilowatt, and then you won't be in danger of blowing the fuse on the site. Next one along there is you can just choose to vent the motorhome, so you can have fresh air circulating around the motorhome. Next one along is your timer. So if you go into that menu, you can set your timer to come on and off at a certain time. Your next one along is to set your clock, and you have a settings menu as well. There's an instruction manual for this control, but I've covered the main things that you're going to need to use on this motorhome. If you if you've got the heating or the water switched on, and then you switch your gas off, or you disconnect your electric, this will go to, you'll get a fault, like a warning triangle coming up here. If that happens, then go into the scroll through and go into the warning triangle and press it, and then give it another long press, and it'll say initializing, and then it'll reset the boiler. So it's like a safety feature that it switches off if it feels that there's been a break in the supply of fuel to the boiler. Okay, so if we deal with the bed that drops down above the lounge area here, so you need the key, which we've discussed. There's another one of these keys on the main set of keys, the bunch of keys that I've been using. You basically just press this button, and that allows the bed to come down. Okay, that little cushion there, it's worth removing because I think that does, the lights end up sitting on that, but you can see there, that's with the bed in its down position. There's lights here, there, just press button to switch those on. You can put this back up with bedding on it. It's important that you don't leave that bedding touching the roof. You know, if you're going to leave it for any length of time, you want air circulating around there. If there's bedding touching the roof, you can get condensation building up, and you'll get mold across the top of the roof lining there, which you don't want. Okay, so that's the bed operation. There is an override for this. If the bed was to fail, or the motor, or if you're in a position where you're off grid and you've not got an electric supply, then there's a means of manually winding that back up. Sort of jet safety override, and there's a winder which goes into that little, probably can't see it here, but it's like an Allen key. So there's a winder that goes into there, and you push that in there and manually wind the bed back up, or indeed down. It does take a long time to do it, but it will sort of get you out of trouble if the bed gets stuck. The kitchen stuff, there's not really a lot I can tell you really. It's fairly straightforward stuff. So you've got your hob with the igniter. You've got to keep that pressed in while you're igniting until the thermocouple gets hot, and then you can release the knob. You've got an oven. It is just an oven, that's not a separate grill. Right, your fridge. So to switch this on, it's a long press on here. This is a three-way fridge, so you can use gas, electric, or 12 volt when the engine is running. And the way to select that power source is to press this button here. Okay, so give a long press on that button there, and then it'll allow you to scroll through the individual power sources. So you've got mains electric there when you're connected to a mains supply. 12 volt, that will only work when the engine's running. It really only is for transit cooling. It'll only keep it cold, it won't get it cold. You need to get it cold at home first or on site first. So I'll just go back to the power selection. Okay, you can actually select an auto mode on this as well. So a long press on there, and that will automatically select the most relevant power source. So it'll look for electric first, then it'll try and find the 12 volt from the engine, and then it'll default to gas, as it's done there. There's also a temperature control here, so you need to adjust that in accordance with the ambient temperature. So it's really hot, then the fridge needs to work a bit harder. If it's a cold day like today, then just put it maybe in the middle, otherwise you'll get this icing up, and you don't want that to happen. So there's a temperature control there. Let's just have a look. Okay, so once you've selected your required power source, then it'll allow you to then select your temperature, and then so let's select in the middle. Okay, so we've selected gas by pressing it once, and then we've selected the middle temperature by pressing this again. So in theory that will be running on gas then at the middle temperature. To switch it off, it's a long press on here. Okay, I was struggling with that a little bit because it kept going to fail because we haven't got any mains electric plugged in and we've not got any gas plugged in. So it will, there's a red light that will appear here, and as I was trying to demonstrate that, the red light was appearing, so I kept having to go back to the start. Okay, so we've got the bed makeup here, and the cushion that we talked about that was in the garage can infill this bit, so you can have all of that as a big double bed. There's a step that can be pulled out underneath here, like so, to gain access into the bedding area. The wardrobes on this model are here, so you've got this which will pull out for hanging space. It is lit as well. Okay, so you need to make sure that the step that's behind that is pushed back in order to get access into your wardrobes. This one, you need to just pull that lever in like so, and then that's folding space in there. So they're the two wardrobes. As I say, you need to just make sure that that step's pushed back in, otherwise you won't get those across. Okay, on into the washroom then. This model, if you're not using the shower, then obviously the sink's set up like so. If you want to use the shower, then this wall here, if you push that little tab in like so and draw this across, then that reveals a full shower cubicle. So that's how that operates, and then your shower head, which is just on the floor at the moment, but it sits into that little groove there. The toilet, the way to use the toilet is this will swivel like so, so lift up the lid, pull that lever which is just there, which directly connects to the cassette which I showed you outside, draw that across, and then that opens up the valve into the cassette itself. Use the toilet and then press the flush button which is just there. You need the pump switched on for that. When the cassette's becoming full, there's an illumination there to tell you that the cassette is full, but as I said, you can actually see down into there because the chemical that you put into it is either green or blue, so you can actually see down into there and to see how full the cassette is. Make sure that that's closed and before you set off, otherwise you'll get water glugging, the toilet waste glugging around in there, which you don't want while you're travelling. Okay, so I think that concludes the main controls on the inside of the motorhome. Just with regard, this has got the automatic gearbox. So the way that works, you've got to have your foot on the brake, you've got neutral in that position. If you just pull it down you can see on here, but if you just pull it down and across, that puts you into automatic. If you push that across, it puts you into a manual mode. Okay, so then you can select your gears yourself. If you find that it's holding a gear, you've probably caught that and it's gone into manual mode. To put it back into full auto, you just give it one flick across like that, and then reverse is across again and down, and then you've got neutral all the way at the top there. When you select reverse, the reversing camera will come on. Sometimes you do actually need to press and hold this in order to get the reversing camera to operate. If you've not used it for any length of time, this stereo will go into sleep mode. What you need to do to wake it up is switch the control panel on. Just some people struggle with this and they think that this has become faulty. It's not. It's just that you need to wake it up by pressing the main control panel on, as we've already discussed. Okay, so that concludes the demonstrational video. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those on the day that you collect. If not, we look forward to seeing you on the day that you collect your lovely new motorhome.